I was standing barefoot in the cold creek, the water swirling around my ankles, sliding to the mud between my toes. I just finished patching a section of the fence that the deer had mangled last week, and I was stretching my back when I heard it. That low, grinding rumble, metal gnashing against wood. At first, I figured it was thunder echoing through the mountains, but when I looked up, the sky was nothing but clear blue. Then I saw it, a haze of dust rising from the ridge, moving fast like a ghost stampede. My heart hit my ribs like a shotgun blast. I didn't think. I just ran. Sprinted up that hill, wet jeans slapping against my legs, lungs burning, boots forgotten in the grass below. When I crested the ridge, everything stopped. Time bent. Below me, 2 bulldozers were clawing through my grandfather's barn, like it was trash from another era. That barn is still like a sentry for generations, weathered through blizzards, fires, and droughts. It held stories in every beam, memories in every nail. And now it was being crushed under steel tracks, like it never mattered. I stood there, stunned, soaked, and rooted in the mud, as the last wall collapsed in a plume of splinters. Then I saw her, Karen, clipboard in one hand, a smoothie in the other, smugness practically glowing off her. She wore that victory smile like a crown and said with syrupy sweetness, "You're welcome. I fixed your property." That moment, something broke inside me. My fist clenched so tightly, my jaw locked down, and I tasted blood from biting the inside of my cheek. That barn wasn't just lumber. It was the soul of Walker Ridge. She hadn't demolished a building. She'd bulldozed 3 generations of sweat, love, and grit, and she hadn't even bothered with a permit. No warning. No decency. I'm Jake Walker, and for the last 6 months I've been living off-grid on 5 acres of mountain land. Just me, my animals, and the wild. No HOA, no rules, no hand-holding. Just freedom. But Karen Gerland didn't like freedom. Not when she couldn't control it. She ran Lakeview Retreat, a glitzy lakeside resort that catered to city folks wanting nature without getting their hands dirty. My old barn, she said, was an eyesore, bad for business. So she conjured fake hazard reports, forged complaint forms, and sent her machines up the ridge to erase history like it was a typo. When the sheriff finally showed up 2 hours late, he glanced at her papers, flipped through them, then looked at me and shook his head. "Nothing but nonsense," he muttered. But the damage was done. All I had left was a heap of timber and a fire in my gut that wouldn't quit. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the porch with Duke, my old shepherd, staring at the stars. The sound of those bulldozers wouldn't leave my head. Then I remembered something. The creek. The very one Karen had quietly rerouted 2 years ago to feed her man-made lake. She'd buried a pipe, hidden it beneath faux boulders and fake landscaping, all on the sly. I let it slide back then, didn't want to fight, but after today, no more turning the other cheek. Before dawn broke, I grabbed my shovel, some steel mesh, and a bag of quickset cement. I hiked up the trail with purpose, each step heavy with resolve. Birds were just starting to stir when I reached the spot. I peeled away the camouflage of rocks and shrubs until I found it. Her secret pipe sucking water off my land like a thief in the night. I jammed it full of steel mesh, wedged in rocks until it groaned, then sealed it tight with cement. When the sun finally touched the ridge, the creek stopped, and so did her party. That night, word rippled through the valley. The koi pond at Lakeview was bone dry. Paddle tours were canceled. The lakefront turned to mud, its charm cracked and crumbling. I sat on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the valley unravel with a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. She showed up 20 minutes later, tires screeching, golf cart bouncing. Her face was red, fury in her voice as she shouted, "You blocked the stream." I sipped my coffee and said evenly, "The stream that starts on my land? The one you tap without asking." She bristled. "That water's a shared resource." I stepped forward, slow and steady. Didn't seem very shared when you rerouted it through a hidden pipe. The sheriff rolled up again, leaned out his window with a sigh and said, "Water problems again?" I nodded. "Got pictures of the pipe?" I handed him the stamped photos. He squinted, then looked at Karen. "Unless you can show proof of easement, there's nothing I can do." Her mouth fell open. "This is terrorism," she barked. I raised an eyebrow. "No, Karen, this is what boundaries look like." She spun on her heel, shrieking into her phone, storming away in a trail of dust. But I wasn't done. That morning, I dug out the original deed from the old family safe. Tucked into the margin of a 1942 filing was a forgotten clause: exclusive water diversion rights to the upper stream, voided if the lower property was ever commercially developed. Her land was the lower property. Her resort had broken the clause. She had no right to that water. I spent 3 hours in the county archives with Frank the archivist, buried in yellowed files. When I left, I had a folder thick with deeds, surveys, water rights, and enough proof to bring down a castle. I wrote a cease and desist letter demanding she remove her spa encroachments, restore the intake pipe, pay damages for barn, and cover legal fees within 72 hours. That evening, the lake was dry as a bone. I stood on the ridge with Duke, watching her workers scramble like ants, dragging hoses to nowhere. Online, the resort's reviews tanked, guests furious, calling it a disaster. I saved every post. The next morning, she came back. No clipboard, no smoothie, just rage. "You're destroying everything," she screamed. I leaned on the fence. "Then maybe you shouldn't have built on stolen creek beds." She threatened lawsuits. I told her I didn't need negotiations. I needed respect. That old deed? It's worth more than gold in these mountains. And a creek doesn't forget when you try to force it. It will always find its way back. Surveyors confirmed what I already knew. Her spa's fountain pump was built partially on my land. With that, I had the county lawyer issue a final demand: remove structures, repay damages, return stolen water, all within 1 month. I delivered myself, boots muddy, walking right into her marble-floored lobby. That night, I caught her contractors again, slinking through the brush, trying to bury another pipe. I stepped out with night vision binoculars and a flashlight. They froze. I gave them 60 seconds to leave or meet the sheriff. They dropped their gear and ran. I handed the footage to the sheriff the next day. He'd had enough. Then Phil, the local journalist, called. He wanted to walk the land, hear the story. I showed him everything: the wreckage, the dry creek bed, the cemented pipe. He asked why I hadn't sued yet. I nodded at the horizon, giving her one last chance. I don't get warnings twice. 2 days later, Phil's piece at the paper: Mountain Rancher versus Resort Queen, a war for water. The community rallied. Comments flooded in, neighbors telling their own HOA horror stories, siding with me. Karen's image crumbled. A week before court, she filed for a delay, claimed foundation issues, which, truth be told, she wasn't lying about. The diverted creek had softened the soil. Her spa was sinking. Karma, I thought, is heavier than concrete. I doubled my security, installed cameras, kept Duke close. Then came the orange flags, new pipe markers. I followed them and found fresh PVC running toward the creek again. I took pictures, brought them to the sheriff. This time, it was criminal trespass and water theft. Court day came. The room was packed. Karen arrived late, flustered and sweating. Judge Raburn, a Valley native, sat behind the bench who looked like he already knew where this was headed. "You built on land that wasn't yours," he said, voice low and firm. "You stole water. You bulldozed this man's legacy. That ends now." The ruling was swift. Full removal of spa structures, fine for illegal diversion, compensation for barn, no extensions. Applause erupted. Karen fled the courtroom. I walked out slow, boots caked in mountain earth, heart steady. Duke waited by the truck, like always. Back home, I didn't celebrate. I rebuilt. Neighbors came with tools, old stories, spare lumber. We didn't recreate the barn. We built something that honored what came before and embraced what was now. We carved initials into the beams, just like my grandfather had. A new sign went up: Walker Ridge, established 1913, rebuilt 2025. Karen never came back. Word is she sold the resort and left the valley for good. Weeks later, the sheriff called and said, "Looks like you outlasted her." "No," I told him. I didn't outlast her. I just stood my ground. Fall arrived. Leaves turned gold. The barn stood tall. The creek ran clean. The mountain breathed easy again. Now, I sit with Duke on the ridge as dusk settles, the air crisp and quiet, the kind of peace you can only earn, the kind that flows like justice through stone and time. Because sometimes you don't pick the fight. Sometimes the fight finds you. And when it does, you stand your ground. You hold the line. Like water, slow and relentless. If someone bulldozed your family's past or stole your creek, would you do the same? Drop your story in the comments. And if you believe in defending legacy, land, and what's right, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. This is the kind of mountain justice that needs to be remembered.